Well, hello there from our studios in Los Angeles and Tampa. This is Green Tagged Theme Park in 30. I'm Philip from Gantom Lighting and Controls, and I'm joined, as always, by my delightful co-host, Scott Swenson of Scott Swenson Creative Development. Here on Green Tagged, we look at the top news each week, and we pick the stories that we think matter most to industry professionals and discuss them on the show. And this week, we're actually going to start with Six Flags.
Hello, and welcome to Six Flags Theme Park in 30.
Yeah, a little Six Flags.
There's a reason for this. There is a good reason for this.
There's a good reason. We're going to start with Six Flags, and then we'll try and get to some D23 stuff. But the thing is, I'm sure all of you have already been inundated with all the D23 stuff. You know, it's everywhere. How can it not be, right? But Six Flags.
So think of this as sort of a palate cleanser for your D23 feast that you've been having nonstop since it happened.
Yes, we'll touch on it, but not too much because I'm sure you've already seen it. I think it's a little bit more interesting to start with the Six Flags announcements. They put a big press release out on August 17th about their Halloween rollout across all the parks. And I think this is the big bet, right? They talked about this on the earnings call as being their big investment into seasonal. And this is sort of the crux of their whole strategy that, at least according to management, they've been laying out, which is they're trying to incentivize pass holder sales, and they are trying to get people to come back to the park multiple times. In order to do that, you have to have entertainment and you have to have food and seasonal elements. And so it's the whole playbook, the whole season's the fun playbook, basically, they're trying to bring back. So what was interesting is how these launched in parallel. We talked last time about the season pass structures that launched and the prices. And now this came in, and all the Halloween announcements are out now several weeks before the pass holder sale goes off. So this pass holder sale is until September 7th. So kind of gives people a little bit of FOMO, right? Here's all these park announcements, everything we're doing for Halloween, and you have about 3 weeks to lock in the best prices of the year to come visit it. And I think I'll read through some of these, but just to give you the structure, they put out a big press release and they talked about, they have different names for the events. They're not all called Fright Fest. Some of the names have kept their legacy names, like Not Scary Farm, and they're all trying to roll it into Halloween at Six Flags as a big bundle. And for the most part, except for Knott's, for the most part, if you have an annual pass, it does get you access to all the entertainment. It's just the haunted houses that you pay more for. And then if you are at one of the parks that has the Conjuring Beyond Fear, which is the sort of hybrid escape room / haunt 20-minute experience, then you pay extra on top of that, even if you have a haunted house pass. So that's the basic structure. And what was interesting to me in the press release is how they're kind of trying to hone in on the messages we've been hearing Riley talk about. So he talked about how they have pass options to make flexible access to the scares, which he's talked a lot about that, about the whole idea of a dim sum kind of approach. Mm-hmm. Choose the pass you need, choose the meal plan or the drink plan or the fast lane or whatever. And now it's the same thing. There's, a single night haunt pass. There's a all season attractions pass, which is interesting. And then there's, of course, the express passes. So you could see where it could be, you just show up one night to do the haunts and maybe stay all day and have a fun thing. Or if you're a pass holder that has access already, you can buy a pass for all the haunts. And you could go every Fright Fest night and see all the haunts and maybe then visit a neighboring park and buy a single night pass of that. So beyond that, he talked about it being a complete Halloween experience and really played up the entertainment, including a new scare zone coming to Six Flags Over Texas that they're calling a premium scare zone experience that blends immersive horror live entertainment and themed offerings. So that's interesting. And then they had a whole section about family-friendly fun by day and talked about all of the genres of fun. I made a big chart looking at the prices, but first, before we get into my charts, Scott, what do you think?
Well, it's funny because this sounds very, very much like Portaventura. In just outside of Barcelona. When they do their Halloween event, it's basically, their Halloween event is basically a mix-in, but the haunts are all, you buy a haunt pass. So It's a mix-in, but if you want to do the haunts, then you have a separate ticket. But they have a huge parade. They have a lot of decor. They have a huge fireworks and uh, jet ski show that takes place every night that is all included with the price of admission. It's just the haunted houses that are the upcharge. So it sounds very similar. Sounds very similar in approach to that, giving people the option to, yes, I want to be in a haunted house, or no, I don't. I will say one of the challenges that I saw when we were at Port Aventura is that the haunted houses, after you've been through the first one, they were not the highest of quality.
Yes.
So it was sort of like, boy, I wish I hadn't bought all these at once. But there's such a great savings that you do. So I'm hoping that the Flags Parks can make certain that it's worth the investment. I think that's important. And I also think, as you're reading this, I'm like, God, is it 5 years ago, and then 3 years ago, and then now, where people are, companies are saying, gosh, Halloween is our savior. It's going to be our make or break. And I've heard it on the park level. I've heard it on the corporate level. Obviously Not Scary Farm has nothing to worry about, but when you've got things like Scarowinds and Fright Fests and that sort of thing. See, I went to the very first Fright Fest at Six Flags Great America many, many years ago, and it was just much more of a entertainment atmosphere. They had one haunted house at that time, and it was solely an upcharge. But they had a great stage show. They had a parade. And it sounds like, everything old is new again. This sounds very, very familiar. And it's kind of going, everybody's like, well, why are they ignoring the legacy? But what they're really doing is they're going back to the legacy. They're going back to the way things used to be and were successful. I think when they tried to make things it just sounds like this is the way it's going to work. The other thing that I think is interesting is, I will say that this elevated or premier scare zone that they're talking about, this is a concept that they've been talking about for many, many years. And I know that for a fact because I worked on a couple of them preliminarily. Nothing I did is going to be seen. It's, it was all kind of a blue sky thing, but that's coming from the Cedar Fair side.
Right. So that's interesting because I think I can talk about this. I interviewed the director.
I don't know whether I could talk about that or not, but I just did. So,
Well, yeah, I don't know either. So I interviewed the director of entertainment for Six Flags about Halloween, and it was under embargo. So I don't think it's released yet. I'm doing an article that isn't released yet, but she mentioned this scare zone. That was not what the interview was about, but she mentioned the scare zone and being exactly what you're talking about, where they're really excited about this new concept coming to Texas, whatever it is, and however it's going to be, is they're excited about this. And to me, it's more like what you're saying. It's more like they're trying to get back to the same. It was just funny because we've talked about this trend. I've talked about this trend ad nauseum, where you get back into the idea of you have atmosphere that makes it like a hangout party thing. And that is what makes people want to come back, because then they bring their friends and they come back and they hang out, and then you can do the haunts. But it's always just like we talked about with the IP and we talked about with Hong Kong and Ocean Park, where it's always a balance, because to your point, if it's too much atmosphere, then, and the upcharge haunts are too low quality, then no one's going to buy them because they're too low quality. So but then on the flip side, if the park atmosphere is not good enough, you're not going to want to come back, because like you said, it's that checklist mentality. It's like, it's like haunted houses have become the roller coasters of the Halloween season, basically. Right.
Right. And some people ride roller coasters, and some people just like to look at them and know that they were there. So yeah, you're absolutely right, Philip. I think it's a really good analogy there. It's gone back to the point where, we kept in the haunt industry, or the theme park haunt industry, we kept trying to go bigger, scarier, worse, more intense, more terrifying, more blah, 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 blah. And you can only get so far. You can only go so far. And then the pendulum is going to swing back. And it's also, I saw a very interesting article in an adjacent realm, and that is why shopping malls have kind of gone by the wayside. And it's not because people aren't shopping, and it's not Amazon even that has completely destroyed it. It's the fact that shopping malls became very generic. They stopped having a vibe. They stopped having, when you went into the mall, you went there to have a good time and maybe shop, maybe buy, maybe go see a movie, maybe to hang out with your friends, because they were designed in such a way that they were interesting to look at and they were clever and each store looked different. But that all went away because people kept getting more. They kept thinking, well, we don't really need to have this amazing light show, or we don't need to have this great big fountain display in the middle of our, we could take that square footage that has the giant fountain in it and we can make it kiosks that will try to sell people things they don't want. And that was actually according to this article, and I don't think it was a bad article or a bad video. That's what happened. It was the vibe that went away. We talked about the vibe in theme parks too, that it went away. And I think that now this is another example of creating a strong vibe in the parks so that it's fun to be there. And yes, if you want to add on the haunted house, great, but it's just fun to be there. And so I think that this sounds like a smart approach, especially considering that more and more of the focus in the theme park realm is going back to things that families can do together. So if they can go to the parks together, then the tweens and teens can go to the haunts, and the 9 and 10-year-olds can see the shows, watch the parades, have a good time outside of the haunts. So it all seems to make total sense, but it is the same old record playing once again, and that is that Halloween is going to save us.
Right. Halloween's going to save us as long as you're making it interesting to be there, right? It's not just going to do on its own. I think that's something we've been talking about over and over. And your family point is interesting. Like I mentioned, there was a whole press release section about it because during the day, it's obviously good for families. But you really can see this maturing into a nice cohesive strategy from Riley and the new team there and you can see it. This is what I love to see. I love to see press releases that echo stuff that he's talked about and that give you concrete evidence, right? It's like, you can customize these scares, and here's why, because we're offering 2 or 3 different pass options. And also family, because we have all this stuff during the day. And also it's more than just haunted houses because here's all this entertainment. And that's pretty solid. And to your family point, you can see a reality where a family goes to spend the day and sees the family-friendly stuff, and then the parents have dinner or chill, and they let the older kids go do the haunted houses when they open. They just buy them passes, and they can go do them. And assuming you've accounted for the chaperone and whatever, all that kind of stuff. Maybe dad takes the kids if they have to keep the chaperone with them, whatever. But like, you can see where they're building it so that it works for a family, but it also could work for people that just want to go at night. And to your point, if you have a pass already and it's just you hang out with your friends and it's more reason to go because it's spooky, like shows and spooky entertainment, and you don't have to add a pass, or you just buy a pass for one night. So it is, I think the flexibility is huge, but
I like it because it's clearly identifying what a family is now. That's the thing that I think is most important. I just had this conversation with Todd Zimmerman from Oddities Entertainment in Orlando. We are so sick and tired of part of our conversation. We're so not sick and tired. We're frustrated by the fact that people who run parks think that family entertainment is only for families who include toddlers and nobody else.
Yeah.
Families are a very broad age demographic and have very specific needs in every niche of that demographic. So if you can create an event like this that has something this doesn't necessarily have for the toddlers, except of course during the day. So they come, the little kids have fun during the day. They go to dinner, as Philip said, Philip's played out the whole night. It makes it so that it's something families can do as a family and not just, let's send, I don't want to go to Fright Fest because it's always just a bunch of screaming kids. You guys go do your haunted houses. But now that they've got shows and atmosphere and street, it's making it so that it's something that families can do as a unit, which not only is wise from continuing to build loyalty to the brand, but it's also wise from a financial background. I mean, you instead of sending the 2 teens to go off to Fright Fest, you have mom, dad, the 9-year-old, and the 2 teens. Well, you've more than doubled your ticket revenue. So
right.
And by allowing the different levels and the different areas, everybody can get something out of it.
What do you think about so we've gotten some comments in the last several episodes, but I tried to reply to a few of them as I can. But one that I thought was interesting, what I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, is a comment about the pricing, right? And this is from G. Robbo, who comments a lot on does a lot of great comments on our shows. But basically, his point is people you attract by cheap pricing do not spend much in park, but will use the cheap add-ons at a high rate. And this is what they did, what Six Flags did for decades. And it's a self-created problem, which they could solve by universal pricing, is kind of what he's positing here. What do you think about that in context of this, where it sort of sounds like, I think his point is like, this pricing, this cheap stuff used to work for Six Flags. It never really was a Cedar Fair thing, but now it's all mixed. And especially because this whole strategy is a Cedar Fair strategy. So it's sort of like, they're bringing a Cedar Fair strategy, but they're trying to put on, or they haven't let go of the Six Flags pricing.
Well, first of all, I don't think we can throw out the fact that we are still in a transition phase. So
that's true.
We are still we can't just all of a sudden, without losing a huge ton of revenue, because it'll just turn people away. We can't just say we're going to now run everything like we did Cedar Fair, because then the Six Flags people will all just magically disappear, or a number of them will. So I think we have to recognize that it is going to be a little convoluted. There is going to be a little bit of a jumble here. I think that his logic is sound in the fact that the lower price tickets are more likely to nickel and dime up. I think that is true. But I also think that we've got to be careful of just all of a sudden alienating the former Six Flags audience by shifting to just a higher price across the board. Eventually, it will get there. But if you do it slowly enough, the guests will never know, and you won't lose anybody. And at this point in their history, Six Flags, as it stands now, can't afford to lose guests. They can't afford to lose anything. They've still got big debt that we've talked about multiple times. So they've got to continue to build that brand loyalty so that they will have the longevity to overcome the debt that they have. So I think pricing is important, but I think it's a much smaller part of their challenge. I think they have to be smart. I think they have to be efficient. I also believe that the people who get in for less are more likely to buy food, merchandise while they're there. At least that's the way it's always been in the parks that I've worked in. And you have to find that key balance between how many tickets we're selling, how many passes we have, and because of the transition, because we're taking two legacy operating mentalities and smashing them together, you kind of have to pick and choose. And it's going to be a little messy. It's going to be a little messy during the transition. And yes, it is still the transition. I know everybody's like, oh no, that's old news, Scott. They're all homogenized, but that's not the case.
It's old news to us, but I think the people that go to these parks are probably still unaware. Like a lot of the casual fans still have no idea, especially if the name didn't change. I don't know. I still talk to people, regular people, that do not know that Knott's and Magic Mountain are the same company, because they were freaking out that about the new maze that was designed at Magic Mountain by one of the Knott's people. And it's like, they're the same company, guy. That's why. And they're like, what? I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. So it's going to take a little time. So I think that the comment is valid. But I also think that it's not quite as quick a fix or as easy a fix as it could be, or as we would like it to be. So we just have to take into consideration that we are still in a transition phase.
Yeah.
It'll get there.
I wanted to add also to this, I had nothing else to add to that exact point, but changing points here a little bit in terms of bringing people into the park and just sort of the appeal of this. They have expanded their IPs, so they're pretty much leaning quite heavily for the haunted houses, at least into the IP section. They pull all these numbers out: 448 Halloween experiences chain wide, and 196 of them are scare zones and live entertainment offerings. So you can kind of see where they really are trying to put a lot into live entertainment, if almost half of the stuff they're offering is live entertainment, which is interesting. But in terms of IP, the 4 new ones that he referenced on the earnings call: Jason, Blood Rain, Final Destination, Blair Witch, and Diablo. Those are the 4 new ones, and they're being deployed at different places. So every IP gets at least 2 parks, but they're in all different regions. And then The Conjuring is returning both for the Beyond Fear experience, which we talked about, and the Universe experience, which is a haunted house. Plus Saw, The Strangers, Trick or Treat, and Army of the Dead. So there you go. And then I made a chart. You can go on my website and see it. But I put all the prices together basically so I could understand it. And the thing that was most interesting to me, just kind of the last thing here before we move on, is like if you look at the Maze Pass per night, the legacy parks, so Cedar Point, Carowinds, Kings Island, Kings Dominion, Dorney, they're all $10 to $15. It's like very affordable. Like you just pay an extra $10 and you can do all the mazes and a night, and that's great. But when you get into any of the Six Flags one, they jump to 35, so 25 and 35. So it's a big jump, almost twice the amount jumping over to the Six Flags parks. And then some of them offer all season maze passes. Not all of them do, or some of them I couldn't get prices for, but I think the all season passes are not that expensive. They tend to be twice or less than twice the price for one night. So it's like if you're going to go 2 nights, it probably makes it worth it. So the math is pretty similar, I think, to their pass holder math, where it's like if you're going to go 2 days, it's sort of in that range anyway. But what do you think about the legacy Cedar Fair parks being half the price of the Six Flags ones for the single night admission to the haunts? And the only thing I can think of is it's almost the opposite of what we just talked about, where Halloween has been a big thing for Six Flags, right? But maybe less. The haunted houses have been less of a thing for the Cedar Fair, in my take. But Halloween has been like the mazes have been the big part of Six Flags. But it's like the inverse, right? The atmosphere has been the part for Cedar, haunts the part for and so it's exactly your point, but the opposite this time, where they can't like completely start charging these audiences so much for the haunts. They gotta slowly. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think that the Six Flags parks were already charging quite a bit for the haunts. So like if it was 20 or 25 bucks a pop and now you can get all of them for 35, to me, the way it looks to me, because when you look at this chart, and when you get a chance to look at the chart, you're going to look at it and go, well, there is not consistency here at all. There is just there's no rhyme, no reason to it. And the only thing I can think of is, yes, there is a trend where the former Flags parks are higher than the Cedar Fair parks. But then when you look at the jump between the per night and the all season maze pass, there's no logic to that at all. Sometimes it's twice, sometimes it's 3 times, sometimes it's less than twice. So it's like, I don't get, the only thing I can think of is they went through, and I hope this is true, because if it is, it's really smart. It looks like they went through and went park by park, and they said, okay, how many passes do we have? What is our gate price? How many returnees are we used to having? And trying to find a way that will maximize the profit. I mean, it's interesting to me. Like, for example, with like Six Flags Great Adventure, one night is $35, and then the full pass is $49. So go 2 nights and you've already more than paid for your thing. So does that mean that they have more returnees or less returnees, and they're trying to encourage them to return? I don't know. I'm going to hope, though, that they went into this level of detail, because other places, as Philip said, in other parks, like Flags parks, like let's do Carowinds. Carowinds is interesting because they have a maze pass per night, which is $10, super low.
Yeah,
super low, but they don't have an all season pass.
Yeah,
so I think what they've done is they've tried to fit the pricing to the behavior of the guests in the park, which again is in line with what John Riley was saying in the call too, that they're really looking at making it so that the guests, they are making the most for the guest out of the guest experience. So
Yep.
I can't quite figure it out either. But that's what it looks like to me, is that they've gone kind of park by park to figure out where are the pressure points, where are the opportunities, and made it so that they didn't do a blanket statement, so that they're not alienating any of their existing audience. I don't know. I hope that's the case, because quite honestly, I think that's really smart business.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Let's move on to D23. I was just looking at this table and thinking, I'm like, maybe I need to go double check some of these websites and make sure, because some of the pricing wasn't released, which was the other reason that I get grumpy. But anyway, like, don't put out a press release, but then you don't have all your ticket bundles up. And anyway, okay, that's a side thing. Okay, D23.
So you actually got to go to D23.
I went to D23 for Attractions Magazine. I was filming their video, which you can see on their YouTube. They kind of took it and chopped it up into all the different segments. So you can see like a dozen videos there that were my really shaky camera work. So I apologize, everybody, for that shaky thing. But, it's because I had to have a really bad tripod. It wasn't the big one. And so I'm trying to unscrew it, but also move it. It was a whole thing anyway. So I'm sorry about that. So I'm sure, again, all of you have already heard everything about D23. I don't know. To me, the thing that stands out the most about it is just that it seems like they were really Disney as a whole. So I know Justin Morrow was there because he came up to talk to people literally right behind me. So I saw him there. So I know they were there. And you got to remember, this is a shareholder meeting. This is supposed to be the investor meeting to show people what they're doing. And that's, what it's supposed to be. So I think it also was interesting that he didn't take the stage, right? It wasn't the executives for a lot of it. It was Neil Patrick Harris, who is a big theme park fan. And that seemed to be the through line, is that it was about the fans. This is what we're doing. We're showing that we're listening to you. And I think that's for any company, that's a huge thing. We are listening to your concerns. We have heard your concerns. We are going to address these things. Here they are. And then you have Neil Patrick Harris, who is a fan, leading it instead of, a Disney executive who's there. And Tomorrow doesn't get on stage and talk. He goes around and he talks to fans. I think all of the optics of this were really well positioned to make it seem like they were looking to do what's needed for the fans. We didn't hear anything new from a CapEx standpoint. Like, all of this big stuff that we heard about, updates, like, I have a chart for this too, but Villains, Carousel Progress, Piston Peak, Monstropolis, those are all things we already knew about. What they added was a Spaceship Earth, a renovation, but who knows when and what. There's no details. They're bringing back the Yeti. They're fixing the Yeti, that kind of stuff. They're going to revitalize, reimagine Tomorrowland. But again, who knows when and how. But anyway, my point is, this seemed to be fan forward, even in the Tomorrowland announcement, because they talked about how they were going to move some of the renovations around to prioritize Tomorrowland instead of building the other stuff first. And that's because people really want it. And it's true. I mean, that's all I hear from my friends that go to Disneyland, is how old Tomorrowland is. So it does show that they've been listening to people and that they're trying. But I would also add that they're not announcing any huge CapEx investments yet. And that's probably because we don't know how much they're going to cost. Because as a manufacturer, I can tell you, now we have, it's like every day is what's going on with the tariff. And we're still playing that game like beer pong. We're still playing it. Like, I think the general people have moved on from tariffs, but it's still a thing for us manufacturers. And that impacts how much rides cost. And it impacts your ability to say how much a thing is going to cost 10 years from now. Anyway, sorry. That was a long rant.
So no, that's not a rant at all. And I think it all kind of plays into what I'm about to say. I think what's interesting is this was a more star-studded event than most award shows. This was all about the production value. You say it's their stockholder meeting, but D23 wasn't created for that. D23 was created as a fan event, as a global fan event, and to make a connection between the fans and the corporation. So I think if it is there for stockholders, it's to show stockholders, who most likely are Disney fans anyway, especially ones who've stuck with their stock for a long time. I have Disney stock, and it has gone up and down, mostly down, for a long time. But the only reason I keep it is because I'm a Disney fan. So
Yep.
I think that that's really what they're playing into is we love our fans. We want to keep our fans entertained. We want to keep them feel as though they're informed, feel as though they have the inner track. Yes, they are rolling things out very, very slowly so that their opening dates, they're not giving any hard dates. They're not giving any hard openings, but who cares? Because look, it's Glenn Close. You know, I mean, that was exactly what I thought when I saw all of the coverage, because I've been watching the coverage just like you guys have. And I think that it was a really impressive dog and pony show to keep everybody enthusiastic about the brand and therefore enthusiastic about the investments that the company is making. So hopefully, hopefully that will work. And hopefully we will get some more solid answers in the future. But as Philip mentioned, with tariffs and wars and all kinds of things, who knows how quickly these things can or will be actually implemented. So I think they did a lot of flash, a lot of celebrity focus, to keep us all interested and to make the fans feel as though, oh my gosh, you know, there's Jimmy Fallon and there's all these amazing superstars, really, who all came in and gave them one heck of a show. And then, of course, you know, Olaf. But anyway, we are out of time. Thank you guys so much for listening. On behalf of Philip Hernandez from Gantom Lighting and Controls and myself, Scott Swenson from Scott Swenson Creative Development, this is Green Tag Theme Park in 30, and we will see all of you next week.